My name's Brian Dowden. I'm the Director of Network Operations here at NineStar. Tonight we're going to focus on DirecTV. How many of you, this is the first time you've come to one of the streaming nights? Most of you? All right, good. Are you familiar with the three that we've talked about? YouTube TV, Hulu Live, and DirecTV Stream? No? No. All right, well then this is new information for everybody. So real quick, one of the things I want to talk about, some of the feedback we've had from the previous sessions is there's been some confusion about what is streaming television and what is the device that we're replacing. So real quick, streaming TV is just fancy words for saying you're watching television over the internet. It gives you the ability to watch it on multiple devices, just like the set-top box would. So if you guys have NineStar services right now, you probably have a device like this or a set-top box. These look familiar? These are what's in your house right now. So when you set those up, or when you had those set up, there was a couple of different cables you had to plug in there. The first one was an HDMI cable, and that goes from the back of the set-top box into your television. And the other was a power connection. So this goes in the back, and so it plugs in into a wall, into a power strip, whatever that looks like. That is no different than the device that we're going to be putting in. So all these set-top boxes do is allow us to send you a video feed to go to the television it's plugged into. What we're going to be doing is removing these devices and replacing it with a Roku stick. This does the exact same thing as a set-top box. That's all you should think about this as. It's just a smaller version of what this is. So we talked about the connections there. You have an HDMI cord that goes to the television. That matches the end. So we'll just unplug one and put in another one. And then you need the power adapter, and you have that as well. So this is going to plug either into a power source, or most TVs now have a USB input, so you can plug both of these into your television, and you don't have to have any cables or anything that drop down to a power outlet. So with that, any questions about kind of what the difference is between this Roku stick and this set-top box? The versions that we are giving you for a set-top box replacement are Wi-Fi. They do sell options if there's a specific set that you want that needs to be hardwired. There are versions that Roku sells that do have a hardwired input, so you can plug Ethernet into it. If you have a smart television or you have a Roku TV, all this interface that you see here is already built in. You would not need a second one of these. This is just what we provide, so if you know, we're giving you a Roku to swap out your set-top boxes. If you want to use a Fire Stick, you can do that. If you want to use an Apple TV, a Chromecast, any streaming device will work. And the question is, if you have a set-top box today, is it compatible with what we have? What I will say to that is on the back of these, there are some that have these colored plugs. If that is what you're using today, and that's the only input you have, the Roku will not work on that television. It has to have an HDMI input in order to use a Roku. If you have a television that is flat, there's a 90% chance that you have an HDMI input on the back. If you have a television that is a tube, that kind of has a deep back and still has that front screen, there's a good chance you do not have HDMI inputs on the back of that. The question is Roku built into every smart TV? Roku has its own brand, or TCL is the brand for their television and kind of who they're partnered with. There are smart TVs that have different interfaces built in. Not all of them will let you download apps. So some of the older smart televisions may have Netflix and some of the early subscription services built in. But if it doesn't have the ability to let you download a new app to put on there, some of these services may not work with that television. However, even if it's a smart TV and you have an HDMI input, you can use one of these Roku sticks and supplement that. So the question is, do you need a Roku for every television? And you do, right? So this is identical to a set-top box. Every television you have a set-top box hooked up to, you would need a Roku device or a smart device to connect into to be able to stream. The question is about how to set up the Roku. Just like any other device right out of the box, it is going to go out and have a setup process. So it will search for the closest internet source that it can find. So normally when your Wi-Fi is the strongest signal, that's the one it's going to pick up. At that point, you would just enter your password and it will do the rest. Okay? So as far as that goes, if everything that I told you right there makes sense and you say, hey, I get it, this is a real easy process, and you want to do your own install, you can absolutely do that. If none of that made sense and you're like, I'm in the same boat I was when I got in here, these papers are on your table. What this does is this explains the process. We will come out and replace all of your set-top boxes for you. So we will uninstall the current setup that you have, install and set up the Rokus to replace those devices. In order for us to do that, there's some processes that you need to have ready, like some wireless passwords and things like that. So if you want NineStar to do the install, we absolutely will. Just make sure you take this checklist with you so that you're ready when you get those installs scheduled. As long as you're switching over to getting rid of the current video service, there's no charge for the install. The set-top boxes, if you choose to do it yourself, the question is, what do you do with the existing equipment? You would bring in the set-top boxes that you're taking out of your home, and we would give you the Roku replacements for that, depending on the number of boxes. He's asking if you can do that at any of the locations. Julie will correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's this campus and in McCordsville. So those are the two locations you can swap that equipment for self-installs. We will kind of get into a couple of the options that we have with the Roku. So as far as getting that installed, we kind of addressed some of the questions that we saw from the last event, kind of how that lines up with a set-top box. But the next questions, the popular question that we have is, how do you get those channels or apps onto the Roku? When you initially set up a Roku, it comes pre-installed with some channels, but you have the ability to add any channels that you want. So the one we're going to talk about tonight is DirecTV Stream. But if you look at the screen here, you'll see there's Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video. These are all pre-installed. If you want to add anything new, you can go down to the streaming channel option. And this is going to show you probably the more popular ones. And if I click on this, you may recognize some of these channels here. Different services that you can sign up for and add. So I have the ability to kind of download this, and as long as I have an account, I can log in with it. The other option is if I go down and I want to search for a specific channel, I can add it that way. So there's really no limit to as long as the service you're looking for has a streaming platform, it's going to be available to you through the Roku to add as a channel. So tonight, what we're going to look at is DirecTV Stream. And the interface on DirecTV Stream is going to be very similar to what you get with Hulu Live and with YouTube TV. That's kind of why we picked three that are similar so that you guys can understand which one is the best option for you. So as you can see, very similar to what you see going into the screen. This is more of a home screen that you're going to get, where it's going to start to tailor an experience for you based on the types of shows and TV that you watch. So the very first screen when I come in here is going to say Watch Now, and what it has is the last channels that I've been watching, right? So Channel 4 for news, PBS, a couple of different shows on here. If I start to go down, so on the Roku remote, I've got 4 arrows, up, down, left, and right. So that's going to let me navigate what I see on the screen here. As I go down, it's going to give me different options based on my viewing preferences, right? So I can go right into upcoming sports. Right now, everything is tailored for the Olympics and the sports plans, and so on, right? So if something becomes popular online, it will add it in here if it's trending, because it may be a show that you like. As you build your own history, it will start to recommend shows for you based on your watching habits. So if you watch a lot of shows on the History Channel and a new series comes up about, I don't know, a specific location that would be on the History Channel, it may recommend that to you early on as something that may be of interest to you. In order to get the most relevant watching experience that you're probably used to today, the very top option there says Guide. So if I go up and I go over, and click on this, this is what's going to give me a TV guide just as if I was watching it on the set-top box that you have in your house right now. You can kind of see it's going to have all of my locals included, and it's going to go through, and just like I was any other guide, I can go just kind of scroll down, and if there's specific shows that I want to look for, if I just want to see what's on at that time, I have that option, right? So I can go through and just browse if I know a specific time I'm looking for. Just like the set-top box you have today, you can look out into the future if there's a specific channel you want to know what's on just by going to the right. So sometimes you want to know what's coming up, so you can scroll and go do that just like you can today. Over on the right, you'll see that I've got a couple of different options. I can go to recent channels that I've watched and narrow it down that way, because there's a lot of channels in the guide. In the basic lineup here, there's about 60 channels, and then including the locals. So there's a lot that you can go through. I also have an option for favorites. So if there are 3, 4, 10, whatever that looks like, channels that you would normally watch on a regular basis, when you have them up in the guide, all you have to do is hold down the button and it will add that into your favorites. So if you're then going in, you know you want to watch TV, you don't really know what you want to watch, but you know what's going to be on one of your 10 favorite channels, you can browse just those channels so you don't have to scroll through everything. The next one is just browse by categories, right? So you can narrow it down for sports, kids shows, movies, TV shows, just like you would have in the guide today. So if I go back over and want to pick a channel, so we can just look at regular news. That was a popular request at the last one, is how can I watch the news? Just like you can today, there's a guide built in, and you can go watch any channel that you like, right? So just like in, what's that?
Is that part of the free service, or is that?
So DirecTV Stream, the question is that part of the free service? DirecTV Stream is a paid subscription. The reason we chose that, along with Hulu Live and YouTube TV, all three of those have a base plan of $69.99. So what that gets you is all of your locals and whatever is included in the base. And we'll talk about the packages for DirecTV here in a little bit. It's unique in a streaming service because it has some different options to it and some different add-ons that Hulu Live and YouTube TV don't. So the question is about the options in the guide here as to what's available in each plan. As far as Fox Sports Indiana, that is one that has been requested at each one of these for Pacer games and things like that. The reason it's not checked on there is it's not included in the base plan of DirecTV Stream. Now, DirecTV Stream has different tiers, and you can add sports to it, but there is a charge for that. So you can get Fox Sports Indiana with DirecTV Stream if you go up to the sports package, which then goes to $89.99 a month. It is an add-on option, but only in DirecTV. You cannot add Fox Sports Indiana in YouTube or Hulu. So the question is, DirecTV offers a set-top box that you can get as a replacement for here. I have one. I bought one so that we can take a look at it, and I'll show you that here in just a little bit. So going back to the guide here just real quick, just to give you an idea of some of the options that you have in here and where streaming becomes a little bit different than traditional over-the-air television like you're watching now. If I go back to the guide, news is going to be a little bit different, right? Because that's on the same time every day. But if I go down and I pick a show, Modern Family. So Modern Family, obviously, these are going to be reruns, but this is just what's playing live on this channel right now. So if you were to flip to that channel, this is what's on. One of the options that you do have that is different with a streaming service than what you would get with a set-top box or in a different location, if I go, there's a lot of on-demand that's built directly into it. So if I hit OK on the remote, I get this option down at the bottom. If I go over to Info, I've got a couple of different options. I can watch it now. I can restart it from the beginning if I'm coming in the middle but still want to watch this episode. And I can record this episode. The other thing I can do is go down to View All Episodes. So maybe I know that Modern Family is a series that I like to watch regularly. If I go to View All Episodes, you'll see up at the top, it has 10 seasons available. And if I go up and choose, one of the seasons, I can then go down and scroll through any of the episodes that it has available for on demand. So I don't have to wait for those to come on. I can watch whatever they have included. The other thing it's going to tell you if you look at this is the next time that episode will play on live television. So if you're wanting to plan for something, and look for a specific episode, you can watch it right now and you can get to this at any time, but you'll know the next time it's going to be on in live television as well. The other two options that I have up at the top here when I select this is I can record the entire series. So I can just say Modern Family is my favorite show and I want to record every episode that comes on. I can hit this and it's going to add it to my library, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. Or I can bookmark the series. I'm not going to record them, but I'm going to flag it so that I see it anytime in the guide if Modern Family pops up. The question is, how can you record if we're taking out the boxes? So traditionally, so right now, this box is probably what you have if you have a DVR. Because we are streaming everything over the internet, we can save all of your recordings to the cloud. So what the cloud means is that you're saving that to somebody else's set-top box, right? That's just out in the internet there, and you're going to have access to it at any time. There is no limit on the amount of space that you can use with the shows that you want to record. The only limitations you're going to see is you can only keep a show in your recording area for 90 days. After that, it's going to drop out of there. If you're recording an entire series with DirecTV Stream, it will max out at 30 episodes. So I've got some shows recorded that we'll take a look at here in just a little bit, and you'll see that it's at 30 episodes. One of the ones that I recorded to test was Law & Order. Law & Order is pretty much on any time of the day on a lot of different channels, so you're going to hit 30 episodes really quickly. What it does, if you have 30 episodes, it will still record the next episode that comes on. It will just remove the oldest episode that you have. So the question is, what's the difference between Roku and DirecTV? Roku is just the device. Okay, Roku is not the streaming service. DirecTV is the streaming service. So for what you have today, this is the equivalent of your Roku. But this doesn't give you the shows that you watch. We provide that to you. So NineStar is DirecTV in that analogy, and your set-top box is the Roku. The question is, how are you getting that video signal today? Yes and no. It's a hybrid setup. It will be 100% delivered via the internet through the Roku. Right now, you don't have to have NineStar internet to have the video services. One of the other things that I can show you here, before I went into the series, the other thing I can do is just record this one specific episode. So if you're not recording an entire series, you can just record this episode. And if I go over and see, you can see at the top, it's got 6 minutes left. If I record this episode, it's going to record the whole thing. It's not going to just give me that last 6 minutes. So the question is, how many shows can I record? There's no limit, right? So if you're recording one, it's not different per TV. You just have one account with DirecTV Stream if you go this option. Any show that you record is available to you on any TV that you have or device that you have with DirecTV Stream on it. The question is, do I need a different account for each television? You don't. You'll have one subscription to DirecTV Stream, and you can install this on each Roku device. There is no limit. It's unlimited, the number of devices you can be using at the same time for DirecTV Stream on your home network. So when you're at home on your Wi-Fi, if you've got 3 TVs and you've got company over and they're logging in on their phone and somebody's watching it on an iPad, somebody's using their laptop, unlimited. You can have as many devices as you want. The only limitation you're going to run into in that is you can only have 3 concurrent connections outside of your home network. What that means is if you go on vacation and you take your iPad with you, you can log into DirecTV Stream and watch television wherever you're at. All right? You don't have to be at home because you're not tied to the set-top box, right? You can take this piece with you. But you don't have to. You can take this for a television. DirecTV Stream is just an app. So you can install that on a smartphone, you can install that on an iPad and take it with you. You can have 3 concurrent streams going that are outside of your home network that won't have any impact on what you can watch at home as well.
So you can have 10 televisions and watch 10 shows,
All with one account.
all with one account.
Correct. Yes.
Can't be 10 different shows.
Yes.
They can be.
Yeah, they can, each different device can be watching a completely separate show. So the question is, if I go travel, can I take this with me? Absolutely. You can plug this into any television, whether it's a hotel, wherever you're going. If you're going to stay at family and you want to take this with you, you can. You can watch it. The only caveat to that is you get local television with this device. It is only going to give you the local TV for the area that you are in. So if you go to stay in Florida and you plug this in, your local channels that you get will be Florida channels. So the question is, can you watch Hallmark anywhere? And the answer is yes. All of the access that you have through this app, you have no matter where this device is.
Okay.
So regardless of the service of where you're staying, this is what provides you the service through the DirecTV app. The question is, if you get rid of other services like video or telephone that you have through NineStar, do you still need internet in order to use DirecTV Stream or any of the streaming services? And you do. All of these services are internet dependent. The question is, do you need additional internet in order to stream? That is really going to boil down to the number of devices that you're watching at once. So in your scenario where there's 10 TVs, each one of those TVs is going to be using internet in order to stream that. So the more devices you have on your home network that are connected to the internet at one time, yes, the more bandwidth you would need. A good way to look at that is, on average, a regular television stream should take about 8 to 10 meg. So if you have a 50 meg plan and you have 5 TVs running all different things, you can do that, but as you add additional devices, that may start to slow down a little bit. If you're only doing it for internet, right? If you're only doing it to watch television, but in kind of his scenario where maybe somebody's on the computer or you have other devices that are connected to the internet, if you've got a smartphone, if you're watching TV, but you're also working on your computer or you're also doing something on your iPad, all of those devices are using the internet. The question is, how will it show you that you don't have enough internet? You might start to see things get a little bit glitchy, maybe some pixelation and things that you would see, kind of like with the video today. If there's any type of interruption or any type of packet loss that happens with video, sometimes you'll get pixelation across the top, or sometimes the screen may go black for a minute and come back in. Those types of things would be an indicator that it may be hitting a limit. But you're going to be able to have more devices than 5. I mean, you're going to be able to have more than that on a base connection. What I can tell you from a standpoint, the question is, how many devices do I have as a family of 5? How many devices do I have connected to the internet at one single time? I can tell you the average smart home today has 42 devices that are constantly connected to the internet. That may be an Alexa, that can be your cameras, that can be your Ring doorbell, that can be televisions. In my case, I have 3 kids, so we have gaming consoles. Each one of them has a smartphone. They have their school Chromebooks. They have iPads. The number of devices just goes up and up and up, and we do not have an issue on base internet plans. Okay?
You have the 50?
I don't have the 50. I have our 500 plan. So, and I believe, is there pricing on the tables? Yeah, so you can kind of see what that looks like. I have our 500 meg plan, but I've tested it on our 150, no issues. All right, so kind of going back to a couple of things that we'll talk about in the guide here. One of the other things that got brought up on your current remote that you have right now, there is an option to go back. right? So a lot of times if someone changes the channel and they're watching something, they want to go back to the previous channel that they were watching. In DirecTV, they do have an option to do that. Whatever I'm watching, if I hit the up arrow, it will take me back to any of the channels, the last 5 channels that I was watching. So it doesn't switch it for you, but you can still hit the up arrow and go back and pick the channel you want to go back of the last 5 that you were watching. So the options that we talked about, we've got the guide and watch now is just kind of the home screen. The other options I have up at the top is my library. So, and I told you that I had set a recording to record all episodes of Law & Order. That's where I'm going to see this. So anything that I have in my library that I have set for recordings, that's all going to appear on this screen. The other thing that I'm going to see if I hit down is the bookmarks. I haven't bookmarked anything, but anything that I add that I'm not recording it, but I want to make note and have an easy place to come find specific shows, that's going to be under my library as well. Now under Law & Order, kind of like what we talked about before with the DVR settings, if I select that, you'll see up at the top 30 total. So I've hit the max of 30 episodes for Law & Order because there's probably, well, all of these are from today. Law & Order is on all the time. That's why I picked that one to see how much could we max this out. But here's all the different options or different episodes that I've recorded. As I start to go down, you'll see that the day that it was recorded over on the right-hand side. You'll see up at the top, it tells me that recordings will expire after 90 days. That will never happen in this setup because it's set to record all Law & Orders. So I'm always going to be at the maximum of 30. So whenever the newest episode is recorded, it's going to go to the bottom of this list and number 31 gets removed. And so from a number of shows that you're recording or from a space perspective, there's no limit. You can record as many shows as you want from live TV. The next option over is sports, and then obviously the on-demand. The on-demand, I think, is a lot easier to get to if you know the show that you're looking for. So kind of the way that we went to the info option for a show we were already watching when we were looking at Modern Family, and then it goes to all episodes. You can do the same thing here just by searching for a specific television show. So if it's not playing on live TV right now, but there's a show that you want to find to set recordings for or to bookmark, anything like that, you can do that on the on-demand screen. And as long as it has episodes available, it will bring them up so that you can click on those and play. Any questions? Yes.
So if it won't record the episode that's already recorded, what?
So if it's
recordings, there won't be multiple of the same one.
in this scenario, it will, because it's only basing it on the day that it's being recorded. The question was, will it record the same episode multiple times? It will basically just record that episode and move it up to the newest recording. So you may have 2 in the list that are identical, but it's going to depend on what channel that's from too. Typically, if you're just recording it from one channel, it's not going to they're not going to replay the same episode in that 30 episode window. Yes?
In my mind, I can't grab a hold of what does on demand, what does that mean to me when I want to go to that category?
So the question is, what does on demand mean? All that means is that the show is available that I can watch right now. So, for example, let's say there is an episode of Modern Family that played last week, and they're re-airing it, and it started at 6:30. And I look at my watch and I was like, oh, it's 6:37. I've missed the first 7 minutes. On live television, I just have to go pick up from where it's at, and I've missed the first 7 minutes. On demand, I can pick that episode and just say start from the beginning. It doesn't matter what time the show started. I can start watching it anytime that I want. Any other questions?
So on guide, it'll show you what is playing right now?
Yes. So the question is the guide. The guide will always show you what is playing currently on all channels, right? So just like a traditional guide would be, you see 630 up at the top, that's going to be if anything started at that time, but I can just go back and forth and see what's playing. So if I choose another show, so let's say I get to something I want to watch and I go to watch The Simpsons, the left and right arrows are the equivalent of channel up and down on a current remote control. All right, so if I want to just channel surf, sometimes people want to do that, I can just left and right and I can go through and it's just like going to the next channel. So yeah, the question is, do I need to delete episodes that I've watched if I have them recorded? You don't have to. You can keep those in your library and you can go back and watch them if you want. If you're recording a series, if you don't record it, it may keep that in the lineup until it becomes the oldest one. But if it's just an individual, it will stay in there for up to 90 days and then it will delete itself. There's no space limitations. There's really no reason to delete it unless you've watched it, you don't want it in there anymore, because you may end up in your recordings, you might have 50 different episodes that you're watching, right, or different recordings that you have. If you just want to clean that up a little bit so you don't have to scroll up and down, then you can go delete those episodes. Yeah, the question is, can I upgrade my internet plan at any time? And you can, right? You can just call in, talk to customer service, and they can make that happen for you. So the question is there a monthly charge to use Roku? There is not. It's just once you have the device, it's yours to use however you choose, same as like if you were buying a set-top box. Question is, how much is a Roku? There's a variety of different Rokus that are out. The ones that we are providing you is a Roku stick in a replacement for, and that's exactly what you see here. I think these range around $40 to $50. They do have different models with varying features. They have ones that are built into sound bars now. They can go all the way up to, I believe, around $150 for those systems, and you can continue to add on to it. So it really depends on the type of Roku you want and the features you want in it. The question is, do all the wires and everything with the set-top box go away? The Roku itself, now it has to have the same two sources to your television as a set-top box would, an HDMI input and power, but you can take that off and not plug it into the wall. Both of these will be plugged in behind your TV, so you would never see this. One of the things that came up and that is unique to DirecTV Stream, so we talked about the pricing piece, right? Somebody asked about the sports package. What's unique with DirecTV Stream is it's the only streaming platform of the three that we talk about that gives you different tiers for pricing. Now we stayed, the one we're using here for an example, this is the $69.99 version. This is their entertainment package. And the reason we use that plan is it's identical price-wise to what you get with the other two services. If you want to upgrade with DirecTV Stream and add the sports package, which does include Bally Sports or the Fox Sports Indiana for Pacer games, that takes it up to $89.99. They have different packages all the way up to $149.99, which includes all of your premium channels, HBO's, Showtime, Cinemax, all of that is included at the premium level. But that really comes down to a preference, right? You can look at that as kind of a one-to-one for what you have today with different premiums and add-ons, but everything is available at the base tier that we've talked about today. One of the things that is also unique for DirecTV Stream is they offer a set-top box. So you can buy a set-top box from them, and then you would not need a Roku. Now, in what we talked about before, you've got the set-top box, power, HDMI, and obviously a remote control. That's exactly what DirecTV sends you. So if you buy their set-top box, what you get is, this is it right here. This is their set-top box. It comes with an HDMI cable, power adapter, and a remote, right? Now, one thing that's different between the Roku you're getting and this version is this does have a wired option. So who was asking about if Ethernet is available, that does come with the DirecTV box. You have two options when you buy these. One, you can buy it outright for $120. So it is significantly more expensive than a Roku. Or you can just add it to your bill if you sign a 2-year agreement and pay $5 a month for 24 months. So I did set this up and test it out and do a comparison, a one-to-one, against the Roku just running the app. The couple challenges that I ran into, just want to share some information before you buy something like this. When you take a Roku out of the box and plug it into your TV, it goes through a setup process, right? It has to be updated, has to install the default apps, but it's pretty lightweight. It takes about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to take this out of the box, plug it in, and be streaming and ready to go. When I set this up for the first time, it took me about 40 minutes to get everything set up and going. And they know, I mean, DirecTV acknowledges it takes a while. It takes so long, they actually have a trivia game built into the updating process to keep you entertained while it's getting its updates. Now, one of the things to know about this is it's an Android operating system. So if you know the difference between an Android phone and an iPhone, this works exactly like an Android system. So in order to use this, you must have a Google account to complete the setup. That's why it took me as long as it did, is the test accounts we were using, I didn't have a Google account set up with that, and to create one through their interface took quite a while. So just something to be aware of. You do need to have, it's free to set up a Google account, but you do have to have that. And the reason you need that is their remote control is controlled by Google Voice. So everything that they do is voice activated, just like it is with the Roku. It just uses a different technology to do that. Now I will say one challenge that I ran into, because one of the platforms that I use is Apple TV. There's different shows that you can get on different streaming platforms, because you can add any channel you want to the Roku. Because this is an Android device, it will not allow you to add Apple TV onto this and install it on this device. It is available in the Google Store, but it just tells you it's not compatible if you try and do that. So if you go with the Roku, you can add Apple TV, you can add Netflix, you can add DirecTV Stream, no problem there. But if you do go with the set-top box option that they have, you would have the limitation of not being able to watch any of the Apple content through their app. One thing that is going to be different, so this is the Roku remote. See, it's very lightweight, it's very limited buttons, right? It's 4 arrows and an OK, and then a home button. The DirecTV Stream box is much more similar to what you're going to be used to, because it does have buttons. It has all of the arrows like the Roku does, but it also has number buttons. So if you know a channel you want to go to, like channel 59, you can just punch in 59 and do that. So that is one thing that the DirecTV box allows you to do. He's asking if this can replace your television remote, and it can. So it has volume up and down on the side, so you can control the volume with your television, and it's got a power button at the top that will turn the TV on and off. Now, if you're using your remote for your television to switch inputs, if you have multiple devices plugged in, you would still need to use the television remote for that. This is just going to control on, off, and volume. The question is, can you still use your DVD player? Any other device that you have plugged into an input on your TV that you have today, you'll leave in place. You'll use that exactly as it is. So if there's gaming consoles, if there's, what's that?
You need the remote that goes with that device.
Correct. If it has its separate, if your DVD player has a separate remote to control that, you would keep that as it is. The question is, which input on your television does the Roku go into? Whichever one's available. It can be HDMI 1, 2, 3, however many ports you have, it doesn't matter. Just whichever one it plugs into, it will automatically flip to that the first time you're setting it up. Any other questions? Any other questions about the DirecTV set-top box?
Do you have anything negative to say about it?
Well, yeah, the negatives for me are the voice control did not work for me as well as the Roku does. The fact that you can't install all apps is a bit of a limitation in my opinion. Other than that, I mean, it's pretty similar.
Menus look good and everything. The menus.
It's almost identical to what you see here, because it runs a DirecTV Stream app just like the Roku device runs an app. I mean, for me, with this being almost the price, this is almost 3 Rokus for price. For me, it's not worth that. If somebody, really wants that option, you can. And it does have an app store built into it. So on this device, just like you can on a Roku, you can add Netflix, you can add Amazon Prime, you can add Hulu, you can add all of those channels. You just can't add Apple TV. So if that's not something that you currently watch or care about watching, that may not be a limitation for you. The challenge that I ran into with the voice on this one is with the Roku, if I'm in the home screen and I want to watch, let's say I want to watch Modern Family. If I hold down the button and say Modern Family, it will show me every single app, whether I have it installed or not, and that has Modern Family on it. So if I want to, and it's another free service, I can just add that channel and start watching Modern Family. What I found with the voice control on this one is when I'm searching for a show, it's only looking at apps that I currently have installed and that I'm logged into. So if I have Netflix installed on this device, but I'm not logged into it, it's not going to return those results in a voice search. That was a bit of a limitation for me as well. But, some people like the kind of one-to-one replacement for the remotes. So if you like having those number buttons, that's probably a plus side. As far as controlling your TV, this is a 100% replacement for what you have. This will change inputs. This will work with, kind of has a last button, things like that. So it truly replaces the entirety of a television remote. The question is, when are we getting rid of video? The final date is September 30th. If you know the direction you want to go, I would not recommend waiting until September, because the request for in-home installs is going to skyrocket in September, because people are going to realize that end date is coming, and if we don't get everything replaced prior to, you may be without service for a little bit. The question is, how does it impact the monthly bill? If you want to talk to customer service after we're all done here, they can tell you what you have today and then kind of explain what that would look like under one of the new plans. Question is, is NineStar managing the DirecTV subscription? And we're not, right? Whatever streaming platform you decide to go with, that's yours to manage. You can cancel it at any time. You can switch it at any other time. The only thing that you wouldn't be able to do, just on a side note, if you're renting the box through DirecTV Stream, it's on a 2-year deal. If you just buy it outright, then it's just month to month like any other subscription service. But the question is, can you only use this for DirecTV? DirecTV is just one of the channels that you can add on the Roku itself. You trade your set-top box in, you get a Roku, and you can see on this one we've got DirecTV Stream set up, but we also have Hulu and YouTube set up on here. YouTube TV is set up on this one identical. So you can install all 3 if you want. It's just a matter of, which subscription service you want to go with. YouTube TV would be extra. So the way that people use YouTube today, if you look it up on your computer or if you're using a smartphone to look up videos, there's no charge for that. That would be this app up at the top here, right? So if it's an app you can install on your phone for a streaming service like that, you would be able to do that on here as well. No charge. Now, if you go with the YouTube TV and you want the guide and the local channels and all of that, then there is a charge of $69.99 a month. So Paramount Plus differs a little bit from the YouTube TV subscription or DirecTV. If it's included in the plan, if there's a channel that you're watching or a show that would be on Paramount Plus and it's on there on DirecTV Stream, if that's the route you go, you can have that. Paramount Plus has a separate option where you can download just their app. So you might not want to go with any of these options. You might say, I don't care about getting the locals and everything all in one place. I just want Paramount Plus. It's $4.99 a month. You can sign up for just Paramount Plus and you'll get all the content on their channel or that's owned by Paramount for that streaming service, and that's all available to you at $5. The Paramount app has an option for live television for just the Paramount channel. So you can go to what Paramount is currently showing live, but there's no guide because you can't watch any other channel through the Paramount app. Those are the main three options. They're not the only options. I mean, we have a View Local service. If you're just looking for local channels, there are different options for that. But if you wanted kind of like really, we chose those three: YouTube TV, Hulu Live, and DirecTV Stream. It's the closest one-to-one replacement for the interface and the channels you get today in our cable packages. The question is the kind of the terms that go on subscription services. I don't know of any streaming service that is not month to month. There may be a discount for buying in advance. I've never seen that. The question is, how do you sign up for the streaming platform? And if YouTube TV is what you pick, the first time you go in there, it will prompt you for a username and password. You can either go online and set that up and put in payment information, or it'll walk you through a wizard to do that, just kind of a step-by-step process. So the question is, can you cancel YouTube TV or any of the streaming platforms at any time? And you can. All of these streaming services are month to month. So watch it for 3 months, watch it for 6 months. If you don't like it, get rid of it, try a different service, try with no services. I mean, there's a lot of free content that's built in with the Roku as well. You may get to a point where you say, hey, I don't want to pay anything for cable. I don't want to pay for any services, and there's different ways that you can go about finding different content to watch. So the question is, you have Amazon Prime, and you kind of got me on my last answer there, because you said, are there any subscription services that aren't month to month? Amazon Prime is $149 for the year. I look at that one a little bit different. I look at that $149 as I'm prepaying for shipping on all of the stuff that I do. The TV is just free and ancillary, and that comes to me. Maybe that's not the way everybody looks at it. But no, you would not need to cancel that service. Each of these different providers, now Hulu does it and YouTube does it. DirecTV, I'm sure, has some type of original content. But like the shows that you're watching on Amazon Prime right now may be exclusive to Amazon. So so you would want to keep that subscription going. The question is, how do you get Channel 8? All of the locals are included with the streaming packages. Are you asking just Channel 8 by itself?
I didn't see it marked down here on this.
I got you. Okay, yeah, all the local channels are included in all three of the primary offerings: YouTube TV, Hulu Live, and DirecTV Stream. So all local channels are included in those. So the reason that I'm saying DirecTV as much as I am is that's the kind of the platform I showed you tonight. So every 2 weeks we do one of these get-togethers to go through a different streaming platform. So 2 weeks ago we were talking about Hulu Live. 2 weeks before that we were doing YouTube TV. So only because that's what I've shown you tonight, that's why I keep referring to that one as much as I am. A lot of the stuff that we've covered are all for paid subscriptions. There is a ton of free content on the Roku in their own channel and a lot of different channels that you can install on here that you don't have to pay anything for. You may have to create an account for it or set up a subscription, but there's no charge for a lot of these channels. When you first log into your Roku, this is the main screen. So when we logged in, right, so I went down and I went to DirecTV. That's how I got to the stuff I showed you tonight. Yeah, but all of these different channels are built in or by default set up on the Roku. So I just went into Roku channel and did that. So, Disney Plus, if you've got younger family members who watch a lot of Disney movies, if you sign up for a Disney Plus subscription, all of that is available in that app. Just like Roku has their own content, a lot of these different apps have their own content that you can watch. If you have a guide that you're looking at today, but you don't have HBO, you can still see what's on HBO. They'll show you what's playing, and you can click on it. You're not going to be able to watch it because you don't pay for HBO. This gives you the ability to add that on the fly as a paid service. In the past, if you had an issue with your bill or with a technical piece or whatever that looks like, you would call in, somebody would reset some things for you on the back end, and it would get back to working for you. You don't have to wait for that anymore. You don't have to worry about business hours. You can reset all of this all on your own if you want to. So that's why that account is tied specifically to an email address. So the question is, what do I use in my home? What I can tell you is the three services that we've talked about: Hulu Live, YouTube TV, and DirecTV Stream. I don't use any of them. I have kind of a hybrid solution of stuff that my family likes to watch. We have Netflix, we have Amazon Prime. I have a regular Hulu package, which is different than Hulu Live. It doesn't include any local television, but it does give you access to their original content. And then I have some of the ancillary channels that we talked about. I have Paramount Plus, I have Apple TV, so all of those different subscriptions. And really a lot of that stuff is for my wife and I. My kids don't watch anything on here. If they watch it on YouTube or they watch it on Twitch, or they're not watching traditional media in the way that my wife and I do.
Well, thank you.
So the way that you're going to see this with DirecTV is going to be exactly like you would in traditional television service. If there are blackouts, if there are agreement negotiations, and they're taking channels in and out, that can happen in here as well. So the question is about using an antenna for locals. I do use an antenna as well. You get a lot more channels when you scan with an antenna, but that's going to be dependent on where you're located. So where I'm at in McCordsville, I think we get probably 40 channels via the antenna. We get maybe 3 locals that we would watch, and then a lot of channels that we probably wouldn't watch, but it's what's close enough for you to pick up that feed. Quality-wise, that may look a little bit different. It's going to be kind of one of those situations where some of those channels, if they're a weaker signal, may be weather dependent, things like that, that you're not going to deal with in this type of a scenario if you're streaming that service. The question is, do you switch that on your television input? And you do. Most antennas that you plug in will go into the coax connection on the back. You just screw it in there like you would a normal cable connection. Well, I appreciate everybody coming out on Valentine's to hang out with me. Always like to see all your smiling faces. We'll go ahead and wrap things up for tonight. I'm going to stick around. Customer service is here as well. So if you do have specific questions about what your bill is going to look like or current plans, happy to answer any of that. And if you guys want to stick around and see anything specific on here, I'll be here and I'm happy to answer any questions. All right?